Hello, Groundhog Day friends. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm trying really hard not to turn this channel specifically into a niche of handheld consoles channel, but here we are again, right off the back of my last upload being about the PlayStation Portal actually getting a step closer to being a real gaming handheld by allowing you to stream games directly to it without a PlayStation. Now, PlayStation are saying that they might be considering just actually making a handheld again. Like, not the Portal, not a streaming thing, a whole separate actual handheld that can play PlayStation 5 games. We're just throwing things out at the wall to see what sticks over here at Sony, but really everywhere. I mean, we just talked about Xbox doing their own handheld in the next few years. We just talked about the Steam Deck 2. I mean, I'm kind of loving it because I'm big into handhelds, but man, this is getting out of control. Let's react. Here's an article that we're looking at on Forbes. So there's also an article on Bloomberg, but every time I try to read it, it's trying to get me to pay $2 a month, and I don't know who in God's name, in the year of our Lord 2024, is paying for news. I could probably chat GPT this for free. There's so many ways to get news these days. I could just go on Twitter and do it, although I wouldn't because I'm off Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky now. But I did post to Twitter yesterday, so I'm not off it. I deleted it from my phone. It's a different conversation. Sony is developing a handheld, standalone PlayStation, says report. Oh, let's read this, and I want to get into my thoughts, and I want to get your thoughts down below as well. This may be no shock, given that Sony has released a handheld system, the PlayStation Portable, almost exactly a year ago, but now they're developing something very similar, a handheld less tied to streaming and with the ability to play games natively. I don't know who thinks this isn't a shock. I think this is a huge shock, because they did just release the PlayStation Portal. It is focused on streaming. To me, it was PlayStation offering us a Nintendo Switch-like experience where we can dock our console, which is just playing the PlayStation normally, or take it on the go, which is the PlayStation streaming. And it's keeping it all in the one ecosystem without creating a divide in the ecosystem. To then turn around within a year's time and go, well, that handheld was great and all, but let's do one that people actually wanted in the first place and create yet another accessory product for people to buy. Now we have the Portal, we got the PlayStation VR. Neither of these are selling very well. Let's try again instantly with something else. Really just throwing things out of the wall, like I said, to see what sticks. This spaghetti is not ready. You know how you throw spaghetti at the wall and if it sticks, it's ready? That was what I was trying to, never mind. The report from Bloomberg says Sony's portable device is likely years away from launch. So again, now we've got Sony and Xbox saying that they're both working on a handheld device that can play their games, but they're years down the line. We're a few years down the line. So now this has got me wondering, like, are all these companies just going to start doing handhelds now? And is there going to be this turnaround time of we've got the console, the main consoles coming from these companies every 8 to 10 years, and then every few years we're getting handheld refreshes from the same companies? Like, are we entering this new era of everyone just having a handheld? Like, what has Nintendo started here? The company could still decide against bringing it to market, the people said, asking not to be named during private discussions. So this is something they're tooling around with, but I think Xbox is in the same boat and they had the same message where if they do this thing, it could be a few years away, but both companies are actively developing something. Maybe it won't launch, but they're both looking into it. It said the device builds on the PlayStation Portal, which was originally designed as something akin to this before moving to streaming. I don't know if I knew that or if I forgot that, but I suppose that, yeah, the PlayStation Portal initially was supposed to be some sort of successor to the Vita, and then eventually it just made more sense to make it streaming, I suppose. It would have cut costs down, would have made it that affordable $200, and again, turned it into something akin to the Switch for the PlayStation 5. One reason this is happening is not just because of the Switch and because Xbox has been public about its desire to make a handheld, but because the Portal surpassed Sony's sales expectations? Something I was wrong about, as I didn't know how big that audience would be. Wait, it only sold a few million, I thought. PlayStation Portal total sales. Fewer than 3% of PlayStation 5 owners bought a Portal. Yeah, that's the statistic that I remember. Between 400 and 600,000 units in US since November. Is this good? Is that good? Maybe that's good. What did they expect? What did they expect? This is a huge company. This is PlayStation. I mean, they've sold like how many PS5s? PS5 sales. They've sold 65 million PlayStation 5s. I mean, maybe 500,000 Portals is good, statistically speaking. I mean, I need to know an actual number. 3% of 65 million. It's about 2 million. Okay, so total we can estimate, if it's about 3% of total owners, we're looking at about 2 million. I actually thought PlayStation Portal sold about 3 million, so it's even less than I thought. I suppose 2 million isn't bad. I don't know, that seems low to me. Hearing Sony say it's better than we expected at 2 million, I really don't know. The PlayStation Portal just got an update that allows players to stream games without being tethered to the local PlayStation 5, a significant upgrade, but a system that plays natively solves some of the problems with streaming, namely latency, but more importantly, the ability to play anywhere, anytime with fewer restrictions. So, we're a few years out, if this even happens. But you have to imagine if this does happen, it would render the PlayStation Portal itself somewhat useless. The PlayStation Portal is a good vehicle moving forward too. Like, depending on what kind of controller they implement for the PlayStation 6, and the compatibility here with the Portal essentially being a PS5 controller, there's no reason why the Portal can't join the PlayStation 6 ecosystem and also stream PlayStation 6 games. This could be something they continually support into the next generation. But if they release a new device that's powerful and can play these games locally, you have to imagine that it would also be able to stream, just like how the Steam Deck can do both. It can play games locally, or you can stream your Steam games to your Steam Deck as well. You would think that an upgraded PlayStation Portal that can play games natively could also stream, so that would really render this device useless. But I suppose at that point, it would be a few years old anyway. And I think the only thing the Portal would have going for it at that point is probably its price point, because you'd imagine it might even go on sale for $150 or less, maybe. It could be really affordable, a way of streaming games from your PS5 and maybe even your PS6, where a device that can play the games locally, you're up at like Steam Deck prices at that point. You're up at like $500-600, knowing PlayStation, maybe even higher. But I think it goes without saying that, price point aside, although people will always complain about Sony's price points, rightfully so, that is the device that we wanted, right? Like a device that could play PlayStation 5 games. And seems kind of crazy to think that we could have that, but in a few years, it's definitely more possible. In a few years, with the advancements in technology, being able to have a handheld that can backwards play this entire generation as we go into the new generation, I think that definitely has way more use cases. And for Sony fans in general, you know, Sony fans who love PlayStation games that maybe reminisce about the good old days of having a Sony handheld, that would be a really cool product to have. And then to be able to jailbreak and put ROMs on and to emulate old retro games on. And now all of a sudden you have this Sony handheld again, like the old days, that's super powerful. And I think that's really going to be really cool for a lot of people, and possibly even like rival the concept of getting a Switch for a lot of people that care more about bigger blockbuster games and visuals and just raw power out of a handheld rather than fun Nintendo games, which I think always win, but that's just me personally. The final paragraph here in this article reads, on the consumer side, the more of these, the better. More options to play games and more places is good for all systems, especially natively. I do agree. Like, we are overwhelmed with choice when it comes to handheld PCs, but we don't have any big gaming consoles from the big three. Nintendo obviously is doing it and leading the way. as of right now, Sony has the Portal and Xbox has nothing. So I don't think it's. I would even throw Steam into the mix there and say Steam Deck is a gaming console as well, not a handheld PC, as much as like something like the ROG Ally is. So I don't think it's bad to have 3 or 4 of these official from every company product, because it really does create healthy competition still. It encourages Nintendo to keep up with the times as well and be competitive and not slack and push forward in their visuals and their performance and all of that, because we get a lot of Nintendo games that run at like 20 frames on the Switch. So I think having that is healthy competition and doesn't take away from what Nintendo is doing or how successful Nintendo can be. So I'm definitely down for all of this. I also don't think Xbox will be super successful with a handheld. PlayStation, though, I think they have a pretty good chance if they do it right. Because in the past, I think they've had a good chance as well, but they didn't really support it in the right way. Something like Game Pass lets you stream games to phones and tablets, but the core of the value of Switch's ability to simply take one device wherever and have it play things, mostly natively. True. Of course, an open question here is about what quality Xbox and PlayStation games would be in a handheld system, as the Switch is well behind in keeping up with modern-day visuals and performances. That's also an interesting thought to end on here, is with the Switch, no matter what game you buy, you play it docked, you play it portably, you're essentially getting the same experience. It's going to look and play the same whether you play it docked or you play it handheld. Something like buying a PlayStation 5 portable console that plays the games natively that you can also play on your console, you have to imagine that on the handheld side of things, it's going to be taking a hit, right? Like, it's going to be tough to be able to play games like God of War Ragnarok in the full 4K PSSR of the Pro, 60 frames, all of that on a handheld. So you're going to be taking a visual hit to play them portably. And a lot of people are going to have that decision to make. Like, do I care? How much do I care about that to play it portably over playing it on my PlayStation 5? Whereas on Nintendo, you don't really have that problem. It's going to look equally bad or good depending on if you're half glass full or half glass empty. What am I saying? Whether you're playing it handheld or docked. So introducing a console into that generation that runs and looks technically worse but plays handheld, it is giving players a different choice than what Nintendo offers, which is a much more consistent performance and quality, for better or worse. So yeah, interesting. A lot of interesting thoughts here, and I'd love to know your thoughts down below. If PlayStation 5 released a handheld that played PlayStation 5 games natively, is that something that you're interested in? Or is it just another handheld that's locked to a console and you're not really interested because you prefer the ease of something like a ROG Ally, or even maybe a hacked Steam Deck, or anything else, or just your Switch, or you're not even a handheld gamer? Let me know all of that down below. Like, comment, and hit flip on the subscribe button. I'll see you next time.